When you first log into GrokSpark, you'll arrive on the dashboard. The dashboard gives you a summary overview of the status of your messaging, both in the hub and across your content. It includes metrics and stats to answer questions about how you're doing with your messaging. For example, what's the breakdown of my messaging by type? How well is my messaging covered in my content? What content needs to be updated? What's the status of my work in process and things I'm collaborating on? Going down the navigation, next is the Messaging Hub, where I can see all my messages organized by type. This is the part of the tool for creating and maintaining my messaging, as opposed to messaging docs, which we'll talk about later, which is for filtered viewing. Let's go into features. Clicking on each type will give you a list of all the messages of that type, and provided I'm in draft view, I can see the status of draft and published messages, along with some other key information. To edit or to see more information on each one, I can just click into one of the messages on the list. Once I'm in a message, provided I'm in draft view, I can now click the button to edit the message. And when I click on it, I can now see the tabs for revision history and also for comments from users and collaborators too. I can also see the tab now for related messages, where I can see and edit the related messages and their relative importance to the message that I'm currently in. Next down in the main nav is messaging docs. Once I have my messaging in the hub, here's where I can create filtered sets of messages to generate the messaging for any number of purposes. I can simply select one of the several templates that ships with GrokSpark to automatically create things like campaign briefs, content briefs, feature launch details for internal communications, buyer persona bullets, sales one-pagers, and more. Or I can create my own doc from blank. This takes me into the messaging doc builder, where I can select which message fields I want to see in the doc and any filters I want to apply to them. With docs, I can be sure to consistently provide the right messages for each situation. Next stop down in the main nav is the content index. Here is where I can see all my messaging and how it's going to work for me in my indexed content. In the content by status page, I can see the stats on which content is up to date, which is flagged to be updated, and which is in the process of being updated. I can also see which content isn't matching my messaging at all. Clicking on any of the pages listed shows me a full text version of the content with highlighting for the matches that I can walk through. Here I'm going to select the product page from our website. Here I see the full text rendering of the content from that page, and I can also see all of the matches to the messaging that I have in my hub. Clicking on the match text opens up a view of the content text side by side with the field text that is matching from the hub. On flags, I can use this stare and compare view to decide if action is needed, which I can do by clicking on the appropriate icon. I can then have the content owners review and update the content based upon these changes. In the content by type page, I can see the same content but arranged by type instead of status. Again, clicking on any of the listings will provide the same experience as it does when clicking on from the content by status page. Last in this section is the retired messages list, which is where I can upload a list of retired messages or manually add any of old messages or stats that I want to find in my indexed content. Anything matching these messages will show up in Flags tab in the Content by Status page. Next is the administration section. This is where I can make changes to the messaging framework, create messaging doc templates and folders, and format the Word doc exports. Content setup is where I can create the content types and set up the locations I want to pull content from on my website and from my Google Drive folders. Users is the place where I can add new users to the system and maintain their roles and permissions. That's it for now, but check out the other videos and knowledge base articles that you can find linked from the help section.